Hello, Potomac Crossing Ward. This is lesson number 7, 2020. Come Follow Me, Doctrine and Covenants. We are talking about section 12 and 13 in Joseph Smith History, 166 through 75. So this is talking about the events around when Oliver Cowdery and Joseph was translating and Oliver Cowdery was acting as scribe. Since Martin Harris lost the 116 pages, he was replaced with Oliver Cowdery, acting as scribe. And they had left New York and traveled to Pennsylvania. And then, so this is before they returned back to New York, at Fayette, New York, to go to the Whitmers. So they were staying there, and while they were there, so this is talking about section 12. While they were there, they ran out of provisions, and Joseph had known the Knights because he had worked for them previously and had boarded at their home while working there. So they appealed to the Knight family asking for help, and Joseph Knight Sr., because he had a good relationship with Joseph Smith and knew that he was a good worker and all that, supported him and gave he and Oliver quite a bit of food. He gave them potatoes, mackerel, some grain, and something else. There's a fair amount of historical material. If you take a look at my comments online for section 12, there's a fair amount of first-person contemporaneous historical material from Joseph Knight Sr. and Jr. On the context of what's going on about around this time. I mean, the thing we need to remember is this is frontier America. This is pre-industrial. So if you didn't have cash on hand to purchase stuff, or you hadn't laid up in store the previous, summer through fall, you simply didn't have anything to eat. This is subsistence agriculture. People are farming back then, and because Joseph and Oliver had left because of persecution and fled the persecution, they were left without stores and left without means. So they were really in a tight spot. And if you read some of the historical material, Joseph Knight Sr. says they were in want, meaning they were in trouble. So the Lord gives him a revelation and says, the work is underway, and you are welcome to assist. And then in the second half of section 12, the Lord makes a series of authority statements, like I statements. So if you read through that, you'll see that while the Lord is speaking through Smith, the Lord is asserting that it is He Himself speaking, so that Joseph Knight will not mistake who is the one who's actually speaking. And then with section 13, that is a fairly late entry to the Doctrine and Covenants. Unlike the earlier sections around it, this one was actually added quite late. It was not in the Book of Commandments or the Kirtland edition Doctrine and Covenants. It was added quite a bit later. I believe it was 1876. And so what happened is the events around this were not published by Smith first. It was originally published by Oliver Cowdery in the Messenger and Advocate. So it was Oliver Cowdery's account that was published first, and that was published through the newspaper. And then Smith gave his account through the Times and Seasons, and then that account ended up being pulled into the Pearl of Great Price, and then subsequently the quotation of John the Baptist was then incorporated into the Doctrine and Covenants as its own section. So there's a couple things in section 13 that are noteworthy. One of which is the way John the Baptist refers to Jesus Christ. Note that he calls him Messiah. So this would be unsurprising given John the Baptist's personal history. Here's a guy who would have grown up speaking Hebrew and Aramaic. He would not have referred to him as Christ. That is an anglicized version of the Greek Christos. So, and at that, and nobody spoke Greek at that point. Everyone was speaking Aramaic, and a lot of the Jews around Jerusalem probably pulled some Hebrew in as well. So, for John the Baptist to refer to him as Messiah fits. That's what they would have spoken of Jesus as. They would have referred to him as the Messiah. So he says, in the name of Messiah, referencing obviously Christ. And then he says that the Aaronic priesthood won't be taken off the earth until the sons of Levi make an offering in righteousness. So this is a reference to the redemption of Israel, the redemption of the Jews, and the remnants of the Levitical priesthood. And what he's saying is the restoration of the Levitical priesthood is there to as part of the larger restoration, and it's going to persist until the complete restoration of Israel. And when that happens, then the Levites will no longer be using the Levitical priesthood or the Aaronic priesthood. They'll be using the Melchizedek priesthood. So once all of Israel is gathered, once we have the second advent and Christ returns, and all of the all of the events talked about in John's Revelation are behind us, then the Levitical priesthood will be done away and replaced with the Melchizedek priesthood. So this is John the Baptist predicting the end of the priesthood that he is ordaining Joseph and Oliver with at that point, and he's saying it's going to continue until the full and complete redemption of Israel and the second coming. There's a fair amount of historical material. If you look at my comments, I've included all that in there, and there's quite a bit. Other than that, these are two very short sections to read, so that's an easy lesson for today. And I think that's about it. So I'll wrap it up.